a 2014 Mazda 5 in which I have installed the trailer hitch. Now the next thing is to get the wiring installed. And for that I'm going to use a Curt model 560116. It has all the T connectors, and there are a couple of other videos on YouTube that have wiring install. I'm going to try an experiment. It's going to be a non-factory authorized installation, in the sense that the factory instructions have it that I'm supposed to run a wire all the way to the battery, whereas right here I have a 12-volt outlet. Right. And it's rated for 120 volts, I'm sorry. So that's 10 amps, which is exactly the fusing for the to power the connector adapter circuitry. Yeah. So I'm going to try the experiment of tapping into the 12 volt on here, and I'll just have to remember that when I have the trailer, not to use this power plug in the back, which of course I've never used in 3 years now. Alright, so first things first, let's remove the panels and other stuff. So first things you gotta do is you gotta take this out of here, and you gotta undo the connections here, and then take the tray out. Probably a good idea to take the tire out, and we'll do that. I'm not going to take out the tire. So the panel that has all the stuff on top of the tire is easy enough to take out. It's as usual. You don't even have to disconnect the covering. And so now you have to take off this back panel, and it's held on by so you can get it right here. There's one. There's your plastic retaining clip there, and at the other side, over there. And so let's take this back panel out. Alright, so I have on each side there's a plastic captured rivet. Looks like that when you take it out. Alright, and then there's a clip, and it's in there good. So what I do is grab this on either side of it and then kind of shake it back and forth and pull it out. Alright, and then you'll hear it bump. And then let's say, how do we get this side we're off, and then kind of, and then it comes out. Alright, so these plastic tabs. Alright, put this away for the time being. And next we have to remove a side panel, so we're going to have again our captured rivet. The tie down hook thing has to come off, and then up here there's a Phillips. That's the easiest of them all. So since my fingernails are not what they used to be, I'm just going to use a Swiss Army knife and gently pry that, and then use the fingernail to get the outside ring gently up and then out. Alright, let's Phillips I'll take care of, and then next we'll see what we can do about this hook loop. And for the tie down loop, it's a matter of just getting that blade in there and flipping it a little bit, and then it exposes a hex head screw. Alright, so I'm going to find the socket size to get that off. My guess is 10 millimeters. Alright, so 10 millimeters it was for the bolt. Alright, hex. Like that. Alright, and I've already pulled one out. And supposedly you're supposed to just gently pull these out. And in order to expose the wiring. Alright, so let's see if we have the wiring exposed. Alright, so next we've got to insert the T connector and into the wiring scheme. So, alright, so I've inserted some cardboard as a temporary prop. Alright, and here's that 12 volt power socket connection, and that white tab right there, that's where the T connector is going to go into, and on the driver's side. So we start on the driver's side. And then for a ground connector, there's one that looks, let's see, right there, I've illuminated it. Looks pretty good. I think I'll just put the ground connector on top of that. Pinching the tabs on some of these connectors is really a nuisance. So what I use often as my go-to tool is a miniature adjustable wrench. You can see from my thumb size, and so this works. This sure helps sometimes. Alright, so this is with a T connector installed, and of course I've done it wrong because this wire should be through where my finger is pointing, through that hole. So what I'll have to do is unhook these and fish them through and reconnect them. That wasn't mentioned in the instructions as to make sure to how you route the wiring to take advantage of spaces if at all possible. It happens. Okay, so this is a better placement. We've got the T connector, and where I've illuminated right here is where I'm going to drill a hole for and do some sanding for the ground connector. And you can see the red, yellow, brown, white wiring is back in a cavity that's protected and won't get pinched. Alright, and then there's the converter electronics. Right. So next I'm going to do the passenger side T connector, then drill the hole for the ground, and then we'll... Alright, this is the connector for that 12 volt socket, and after measuring, so there's the white and brown wire is plus 12 volts, the black is ground. What I'm going to do is splice in and tap off the plus 12 volt, and just to be cute, I will use the provided 10 amp fuse holder, and even though this circuit already has a fuse. Alright, what's one more fuse in the scheme of things? Alright, and then we'll still have to do with the ground, and then we'll test things. Alright, this is the connector to this 120 watt power outlet. So I know that further upstream there's a fuse, And this guy here, let's see. Alright. It's striped white and black. This is where I'm going to make the connection to the positive 12 volt part of the wiring, and so that'll provide the power to the converter, which is down here, see, out of the way from the jack. Alright. And here I've soldered a connection to the 12 volt supply. Next I gotta drill a hole. I gotta tape this multiple times. The pliers is used as a heat sink because if it's hot enough to melt the lead and tin, it also melts the insulation, so it helps mitigate excessive melting of the plastic insulation. And here we have our back side of our power connector. Here's the connector with now multiple layers of insulation tape between the power and the ground, and so this will connect back in here, and right about here is where I'm going to use a close quarter drill and drill a hole and then sand the area for that grounding tab. Alright, so right about here I've drilled a hole 3/32 and sanded away a little of the paint. Alright, and I have my multimeter and I've set it to have the audible sound for continuity. So if I have a connection, it's going to sound like that. Alright, so then I take it and I put it by a bolt by the rear latch, and I'm just going to confirm. And so here, if I put it on the paint, I have intermittent, but when I get to the sanded off area, good. Away, no sound. By the sanded off area, good. So at least I have a chance of having decent ground contact. Okay, I actually had to drill the hole out to 120 thousandths in order to get this self-drilling sheet metal screw to work. And I just use an extension in a 1/4 inch socket. Alright, and now let's check for continuity. Alright, we have our old... Alright, so let's put this on the tab by the wire. Alright, and the sound, alright? See, it's the same as that's on a nut, screw, tab, wire. Good. Alright. Indication of good grounding. And here are a couple of troubleshooting tips for the wiring. Alright. And this one, I don't have a tester, or at least if I do, I don't know where it's hidden. Anyway, so I have the car on the left turn signal. Alright. I have my multimeter on the 20 volt DC scale. Alright. And what you do is, alright, this guy is negative ground. Alright. And you see the display, every time as it flashes, it gives a pulse up to 12 volts. Alright. The other one's 0.5. 0.5. Alright. So, that's how you know that the unit's working as far as the left. Another wiring tip is check the ground between your trailer and your car when it's plugged in. So I'm going to plug this guy in. Alright. And for that, you don't need to have the power on for your electrical system. So let me turn that off. Set the multimeter to continuity again. Alright. Check your meter. Alright. This is a pretty good grounding point. And over here on the trailer. Oh, no. Alright. So, there's a good contact. If you break the connection, so let me unplug car trailer connection. Alright. Same thing. No signal. Alright. Some people think that you get ground through the hitch. That's iffy. Alright, so let me reconnect this. Connection made. Ground check. Alright, good. So, tip number 3 is you don't have your BFF around and you want to check to make sure that the brake lights work on the trailer. Alright. So you can use a 2x4 in the seat. And so we have a piece of 2x4 that presses against the brake. Now because the converter needs power, although the brake lights for the car, alright, let's just check to see the brake lights for the car are on. Alright. The brake lights for the trailer will need to have a 12 volt supply to the converter. So let me turn the ignition on and let's check to see if, alright, so we have brake lights on, alright, even the center guy is on, alright, we have our stuff for our rewiring, and, alright, see, right trailer light is on, okay, and left guy is on, alright. I put the rear scuff panel in, and alright, through the reflection you can see the green, brown, and white striped wire, and it just lays on there and makes its way through. So let me get this back. Okay, and one test is just grab it and then just gently pull and see if it comes through, right, with minimal opposition. If that's true, then it's not pinching the wire, and it should be okay for multiple uses. At least that's my opinion. Alright, so this is the setup that I am using. The one additional modification I'm going to do is, since connections can go awry, so I actually have 2 connectors spliced into the wiring, and what I'm going to do is splice another plug at the end of here. You sometimes get corrosion on one particular pin, and then that just makes life difficult, and so the last thing I want to do is be pulled over by a state trooper again for lights that don't work. Alright, so this is an update a week later after putting 2,200 miles on the trailer with the hitch and the wiring with highway speeds of up to 75 miles an hour. Alright, so the draw tight hitch performed well. There's a Curt. This mount here is the Curt Euro mount. It's rated for maximum trailer weight of 3,500 pounds, maximum tongue weight of 350. And then for the wiring, this was a Curt adapter kit that had all the plugs that fit in properly, and then this was a splice. Of course, now the splicing I do to my own ancient specifications, so I don't do the crimping, but I do soldering and then multiple wrapping of electrical tape. So redundancy is always in my repertoire and in my design refinements. So no complaints. Yes, no complaints as far as performance on this, and as far as anything adversely happened, certainly nothing happened in the 2,200 mile run. As I said, highway speeds up to, well, the speed limits were 75, and I was certainly keeping pace with the leaders in the traffic flow. And so, as I said, no complaints with performance so far.